trying to take a lot out of you. Did a twofer because we watched 2 movies.
Mm-hmm.
We watched Boondock Saints, and that episode's been up for a while, but now we're doing the Boondock Saints 2, All Saints Day.
All Saints Day. And I needed to say that we needed to watch the sequel.
Yes, I was very hyped off of the first one, and I wanted to just roll right into it, and so we did. The second directorial and writer credit for Troy Duff,
Troy
Duffy. That's it, Troy Duffy, the director and writer for both movies. Mm-hmm. And as we discussed, this is about all he's really done, all the major projects, really. And you can see the improvement for sure.
Better score.
Better score.
We've pointed that out. Better budget, I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah.
You were supposed to look that up.
The first one had a budget of $6 million, estimated budget, and this one had a budget of $8 million.
That's not a whole lot more, though.
It's not, but also considering
$2 million is a lot.
You know, the process of making movies, you know, it gets better and easier over time. So less of a budget, but, you know, you can still do more with that. $2 million more. They were able to do a whole lot more. They actually went to Ireland for a couple of scenes.
Oh.
There were flashbacks. You know, there was a little more to it that I felt like the first one would have really used. And like I said, the first one felt like it could have been longer. This one was perfect.
Honestly, but it left you like, okay, so towards the end, or at the very, very end, it left it open. Very open.
We've already passed the 10-year mark from that one, so who knows if we're going to get a third one. Similarities. There's a lot of similarities.
Same actors.
Same actors, of course.
I'm so happy about that.
For Connor is one of them, and I can't remember the other brother's name.
Murphy
and Connor. The 2 brothers. Same actors, obviously.
The Saints. The brothers.
The 3 cops that were helping out with the investigation. You know, we had Greenlee and the other 2 who I can't remember.
The only one that is even notably named is Greenlee that I can recall off the top of my head.
He left the biggest impression of the 3 in the first one, and he has the most important parts. He's the biggest of the 3 in this one.
Yeah.
Instead of our boy Willem Dafoe, we are introduced to a new character.
Eunice
Bloom. Special Agent Eunice Bloom. Handpicked by...
Smeckler.
By Smecker.
Smeckler?
I think it's Smecker.
Oh well. We're fine. Either way. Willem Dafoe's character. Let's just call him that for now.
Handpicked by Willem Dafoe to lead the investigation. And she shares some of the quirks and some of the attitude, but at first, she didn't leave a very good impression.
She was annoying.
She was very annoying.
I hated her accent. I still hated her accent to this, like, throughout the entire movie. I hated it. But that's me, and I hate Southern accents. Yeah. I shouldn't be living in Texas, huh? Don't look at me like that.
Y'all come back now. Y'all here.
That was the most northern-sounding Southern accent I've ever heard.
The point was to be terrible.
Oh, gosh, there. Y'all come back now. Don't you know?
If your goal is to be terrible, you cannot fail. And when you do fail, you're actually doing okay. Because if I'm trying to live by. If I'm trying to be terrible and I can't do that, that means I'm doing okay. And I'm okay with that.
I can't be bad at anything, even when I try. That's an egotistical fucking thing to say.
I'm bad at many things.
I heard you like bad boys. I'm bad at everything.
Winks with both eyes. We get to see Special Agent Eunice Bloom doing her work that Smecker did in the first one. She has the gloves, and instead of listening to music, she just puts in earplugs, which I think is a pretty interesting choice. Makes it different enough, but the same kind of idea. Mm-hmm. And she looks around the crime scene of the first crime in the movie, which was a priest was shot in the style of the Saints, who had been missing for 8 years. After they executed a guy on live TV, they just
bolted.
Pieced out of there, apparently.
I mean, obviously, like, that would be the only thing to do.
They made a whole spiel about being known and that they were going to bring people to justice, and then they just
ran off.
Yeah. The first crime in Boston since then that bears the markings is a priest, which is not really their MO.
At all. Not even close.
Everyone is saying it's them, even though it's obviously not. And
they're just like, pennies in the eyes, of course it's them.
Eunice, however, takes a look at the crime scene and says, it's not them.
She knows she doesn't even have to go further into it, but she does anyway.
She talks about the ballistics of it. In the first movie, Smecker noticed that the bullet holes were back of the head, crisscrossed out the eyes, so it was two guys with guns, person on their knees. That was kind of their style. This one,
execution style,
was the execution style. They
got the guy on the knees, but it was obviously one person because the trajectory of the bullets went straight through
instead of at an angle, and it was lower. The entry point and exit points were lower, so it was a short little fucker, as she put it.
They make a big deal about him being short, which is funny.
And
like a big weird deal.
Yeah, they make a big deal out of it.
Like the whole movie, like it's almost like a comedy about how short he is, and he's just like. There are scenes where he's just like kind of like measuring himself up to other like characters or like.
Yeah, and he's 5'5". I'm about 5'6".
Honestly, you're a little taller. I feel like you're closer to 5'7", if anything, because I'm 5'4". And
do I look like the kind of person that's going to argue over about a half an inch? No.
Yeah, actually, you do.
I'm just going to leave it. I'm just going to leave it at 5'6". It's fine. News of this reaches Ireland, where the boys have been isolating themselves with their father.
They're on the lamb.
They're on the lamb with lambs, sheeps in the yard, farm, whatever.
Wearing wool sweaters all the time.
Oh, it looks so cozy.
They do.
They have this little shack out in the middle of Ireland, and they had
that sounds beautiful.
No electricity. They had a wood fire burning.
And the dad.
Like a lantern, and their dad was with them, and he had that great big bushy beard.
They all did at that time.
Yes,
remember? The hair grew, and
their hair grew out, and they all had great big bushy beards.
Great big bushy beards.
If you want to start a drinking game for Let's Watch Something, take a shot every time they go, great big bushy beards. All right, now that you're awake.
We're going to reference great big bushy beards a lot because it's literally my favorite line out of like most movies.
It's great. The boys are heading back to Boston, and they take a ship apparently where they meet.
The boys are back in town.
They take a ship where they meet a new third member.
Our favorite.
Oh, he's the best. Romeo.
Fucking mullet.
Yes. Sorry. God, he was the best part of this movie. Just like Rocco from the first one, this guy was the best part of this movie.
I didn't mean to yell into the mic, but yeah.
It'll be fine.
Mullets.
The mullet. He had a mullet. He was in a fight club on the ship, and he had his
hands chained behind his back, and they were like, he just has to last this guy with, what, like 5 minutes?
Yeah, and he was just juking him out, ducking and weaving, and he fucking jumps off of a shipping container,
and like
slips
leaps
his legs underneath the chain and gets out. Doesn't get out. He doesn't get out, but he gets his arms in front of him, and then he starts pounding on him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great. He wins the fight. And that's when the boys are kind of like, let's keep an eye on this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets jumped by a couple of dudes.
They were like
ship,
French dudes.
And our brothers save him.
Mm-hmm.
And when he learns who they are, he kind of wants to tag along and be their third. And they give him this little tiny pea shooter, this itty bitty gun.
What is it, like a 22, they said?
Yeah, it's a 22.
Not that I know anything about guns.
Me neither. I play Fallout New Vegas, and there's some 22 guns in there, and they are garbage.
They are about the size of my hand, which is small, by the way.
They give him that, and he puts together this really cool plan to bust in to be This is the Saints' triumphant return to fighting against the bad guys in Boston. He has them charging a forklift with a crate on it into the fucking room where they're dealing their drugs or whatever. Yeah, the boys pop out of the crate and just gun them all down.
This is a fantasy sequence, by the way.
Right.
Pointing this out right now. That this is how the plan was supposed to go.
It doesn't quite make it, does it?
Not at all. So, it just falters from beginning to end. Like absolutely. The whole scene, and it's hilarious.
If you can imagine a crate large enough to fit 2 people comfortably, that's a pretty big box. But if you're cramped in a crate, you're kind of fighting over each other, which is where we get more of that brotherly banter that we really loved in the first one. So much better in this one. Not to say it was bad in the first one.
It was great in the first one, but
better. More of it.
I feel like because they're more familiar actors with each other, they just can kind of let loose and play around with it more.
Right. We have the brothers fighting in the crate, knocking it around. That crate is big enough to hold two people, which means when it's lifted up,
can't really see
beyond it.
Our boy Romeo
can't see where he's going in the forklift, so I'm gesturing again, I'm sorry. So he's swerving and weaving, trying to keep the forklift going in the right direction. Ends up deciding to take it up higher so he can see, and as he does that, he just drives into a little fucking ditch in this shipping container warehouse, and the crate crashes and breaks open, completely ruining their element of surprise and ruining their plan. However, I still think it was a pretty badass entrance for the Saints. And from the rubble of the splinters, I guess, of the wooden crate, the Saints, who have been gone for years, suddenly
pop out and
are charging at these dudes completely.
The Cantonese,
unsuspecting. They're speaking in Cantonese. I guess that would be Chinese.
That's Cantonese. It is Chinese.
Is it its own country though?
I'm not sure.
Because if it's a dialect, that would still make them Chinese, though, right?
I guess. Regardless, Cantonese.
Right. This brings our Special Agent Eunice Bloom to the shipping depot with the three bumbling goofball detectives, where she immediately proclaims this was the two brothers.
Absolutely. There was no question. She was just like, absolutely, this is them.
100% them. I forget what happens next. I know that, as soon as the boys are back in town, the boys are back in town.
I made that.
You did.
Boys are back in town. Anyway.
I did it poorly, though, which is funnier.
Thanks, I guess.
Yeah, you're too good at singing. You can't sing horribly for comedic effect.
That's accurate.
With the boys returning, all the mobsters know that they gotta hide. So the son of the dude who was in charge of the first one, Jack
off in the
Jack off in a ditch.
Yeah.
His son is now in charge of the gang, the mob, and he puts all the dudes in a fucking safe house and leaves one lonely grunt from New York, an out-of-towner guy, on the streets.
Gorgeous George, by the way.
Gorgeous George on the streets to
with
keep
a hairy
an eye
back.
on things. Of course,
has a hairy back.
He has a hairy back.
Regardless.
Irregardless.
Oh, irregardless. Thank you.
That's from this movie. Are we being dumb?
We are being dumb.
We're being a little dumb. It's been a long day.
I'm okay with it.
It's fine. Gorgeous George is out on the streets. He's the only person left on the street while everyone else is safe, except for like the lonely grunts who are actually pushing drugs and whacking people off or whatever. What do you want me to do? Whack a guy, off a guy, whack off a guy? I'm married. That was when Family Guy was good.
Oh yeah.
Family Guy was never good.
Dun dun dun. I don't know.
Hot takes.
Uh-oh.
Womp womp.
You know, our listenership is probably a big fan of like Family Guy stuff, so.
Ooh. Very hot takes for that then. Gorgeous George is out getting his a massage, and our special agent Eunice, she's doing some detective work, but a little bit off the pip, not quite legal detective work, because you're not supposed to just barge into a place like that. She gets the masseuse out of there, and she starts massaging him.
And it spanks him
down his towel and spanks his bare ass. And roughs him up for information.
Basically, you can see his dick flopping around a few times, and that was just unsavory.
For a couple of frames. Unsavory dick floppage.
Oh, that was funny.
She smacks him around for some information. Doesn't get a whole lot out of him because he is the low man on the totem pole. He was the one who was left out in the rain, basically. And what she's asking him is just giving him information and getting him a little agitated because he's kind of being he's the bait. He's the scapegoat.
Yeah, he's 100% bait.
So they're trying to get the brothers to target him. in order to goat them out of hiding. That's where the phrase scapegoat comes from. Fun fact. No, it's not very fun. My facts aren't very fun. Researchers accidentally killed the world's oldest animal in 2006. His name was Ming the Clam, a whopping 507 years old. They opened him up to see how old it was, discovering that Ming was in fact the oldest living animal known to science. They also killed the clam when they broke its shell open.
I feel really bad about that, but it's fucking hilarious.
Pig can experience depression.
Yes, we can. Cease the planet.
After Eunice... Moving on from that. Hilarious bit. After Eunice shakes down Gorgeous George.
Mm-hmm. And his floppy, fucking unsavory dick.
The next people after him is the brothers with Romeo in tow.
Oh, yeah. No.
They hit him up at the tanning salon.
Oh, yes.
And that's when he gives the information about where the bad guys are hiding. We get a lot of flashbacks for the dad, which I wasn't a huge fan of.
Well, I like the fact that they kind of set up a backstory for him a little bit because, like, then they have an explanation on why he wasn't there. I hit the mic thing.
We did need to set up his story for the reveal at the end.
Honestly, they could have just had it separate and done a prequel. But honestly, a trilogy of the Actually, no. A Boondock Saints trilogy would actually be not, like... I would not be opposed to that.
Let's get into why there's a third one in a bit. Because
why there's a third one? Or why there
could be.
Well, then, obviously, like, yeah. Right. I had mentioned that they left it completely open for a third.
Right.
But... it's not probably...
A lot of the plot stuff, they tried a lot harder than the first one, but... the flashback stuff I didn't care about. The character stuff between the brothers with Romeo, and as it went on with Bloom and the three detectives, it got better.
I liked Bloom towards the end, but not. It took a lot to get me to like her. Right. A lot.
It took until after we find out that
she's
also on their side.
Yeah, she's in cahoots. I
all
love
up in those cahoots, man.
So far deep in them cahoots.
Oof. Just wrist deep in them cahoots right there.
Elbow deep. Balls deep.
Balls deep. Oh my God. What was that song choice?
Balls Deep in Love.
Balls Deep in Love playing.
Let me see if I can find it.
On the previous episode previously on Let's Watch Something, Boondock Saints, Jacqueline talked about how much she loved the goofy ass
music choice,
love making music that they chose when they were looking at guns. And they brought that back 100 times stronger with the song Balls Deep in Love.
Is that even a real song?
Pulling it up.
I'm trying to see if I can find it because I don't think that's a... Oh, hold on. Okay, we're not going to play the whole thing, but this is kind of giving you an idea of what
they played in that moment.
I don't want to be the one that's chasing you around the town. I don't want to be the guy that's wondering when you put me down.
Alright, I'm going to stop it there. But it proceeds to sing about being balls deep in love, which I'm assuming means having your penis so far in a vagina that your balls are touching it.
Wow, just went straight for it.
I usually do go straight for the dick.
This again is juxtaposing the images of guns, because these guys, while they're doing it for righteous reasons, they do love their work. And I appreciate that. And Romeo gets his own gun.
Oh.
His own pretty gay gun, apparently.
No, they're fantastic. They're the little, like, if you look closely, they're like the... like a flag of Mexico with like little the silencer was like gold.
The movie itself called it gay.
Oh yeah, I know they called it gay, but it's
nothing wrong with that.
Everything is fantastic. Being gay is
nothing wrong with that.
The best feeling in the world. Sometimes that's why. What was that?
That's me laughing inwards so that I don't blow out the microphone with a
We're ridiculous.
Absolutely.
It's okay, though.
That's fine. This one's going to be a goofy one. This one's also going to be a short one. The action in this movie is leagues better than the first one.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, not at all.
Really?
I don't think that the action was bad. I loved the action in it. But I still love the action in the first one just as much.
Okay.
I'm not saying that, like, this movie, like didn't compare or didn't rank up to the first one, but I still love the shots and the scenes and the gritty, like the gore. Well, it wasn't really gore. It was like just the violence.
Yeah.
Gratuitous violence.
As Penn Jillette puts it, take a shot every time Anthony mentions Penn Jillette. As Penn Jillette puts it, the artistic representation of violence. And this movie does it in spades. There are, I feel like there are fewer action set pieces, as it were, but the quality of them is like beautifully handcrafted. The rope comes back. If you've seen the first one, if you've seen the first Boondock Saints movie and are thinking about how much you would enjoy the second one,
you and your fucking rope.
The rope comes back.
The rope. Honestly, I feel like the rope is a main character now. Like,
yes. The rope is going to have his own Wikipedia page on the Boondock Saints wiki.
It should. Useful in multiple scenarios.
Useful in at least 2 movies.
At least.
The Saints continue their spree, taking down mob bosses with the help of Romeo, and we begin to see the cops in the investigation a little bit undermining it, especially when a shootout happens at a bar, and the cops show up.
Well,
not the cops, just Special Agent Eunice and the copycat killer, the one that is supposedly set up by the one that's supposedly setting up the brothers, the Saints,
the short guy,
the
little fucker,
short little fucker. The Saints and Romeo take out 6 dudes at once. Firefight between the Saints and the imposter. Eunice shows up, gets all kinds of hairy. Eunice then reveals herself to be on their side.
Your hand motions, just
I do it up more.
Arm flailing tube man. You're gonna stand. I'm gonna put you in front of
arm flailing tube man.
I'm gonna put you in front of like a car dealership, and
this is not a recommendation. This is somebody please find this for me because I can't. There is a commercial for Pets Alive, which is an adoption center or company. And they have a person wearing a pink sweater standing behind and beside the person talking with the sweater pulled up over their head and the sleeves over their arms. So their sleeves are longer than their arms. Flailing their arms like a wacky, wavy, inflatable arm flailing tube man. It's for a pet adoption company or center, clinic, whatever you would call it, called Pets Alive. If you can find that commercial,
a dog orphanage,
send it to me because I want to see it again. I saw it on Facebook once, like 3 years ago, and it's my Moby Dick. I want it. I need it. It haunts me.
Now that I feel uncomfortable, I want it. I need it. Fulfill me.
The Saints and Eunice and Romeo make the bar fight look like just 6 dudes firing upon each other and taking each other out.
They mop up the blood.
Oh yeah, they squeegee the blood over to one side to the other side of the bar, so it looks like they were all kind of in a big group facing each other, so that they could have all shot each other with no survivors, and just kind of peace out. How did we forget to mention the Speedo?
I was going to mention it.
Gorgeous George was wearing a Speedo.
A pink European cut Speedo.
And they had him duct taped to a rolling tray. And like a pig rolled him out.
He hits the fucking other side of the bar.
And that's when everyone turns
and looks.
Goes to look at it. And then they pop up behind the bar and shoot him. And after everyone's dead, probably the best part of this movie is somebody, I don't think this was planned, knocks the tray. And he begins to tip over, still taped to this tray, and starts flailing his arms around
as he's falling. I would have left it in too if I was that. That's perfect. That's hilarious.
It was absolutely perfect.
It's hilarious. This movie has so much funny shit in it. It's great.
It's funnier than the first one.
I think it's funny. It's funnier because of the first
You're
one,
right.
though.
This is the continuation of the brothers' relationship and these new characters.
If we would have seen it out of context without seeing the first one, it probably wouldn't be as funny.
You're right. Anybody that ever watches a sequel without watching the first one is fucking wrong.
I had to fight somebody because they wanted to take me to see some sequel, and I was like, I never saw the first one. I can't do that. I had to fight them because they're like, just come with me, with me.
The only exception is technically Star Wars.
Because you can see them all out of order and it doesn't matter.
Right. Mostly because they renumbered them after they came out. And so the first one's the fourth one and the fourth one is the first episode one, you know? They did a whole thing. Also, episode one is terrible and you can skip it completely.
I want to see all of them eventually anyway.
That's going to be...
Not
all at once. Not all at once. No.
I would probably I would take an entire weekend. I'd have to take a day off of work.
No, not at all at once. I'm talking about doing, and if you're up for this, I want to do it this year. The Star Wars Christmas special.
There's a Star Wars Christmas special.
No.
Are we going to do it?
All December long, we just watch all the Star Wars movies. That's my idea.
Okay.
So for the month of December, just catch up on the main Star Wars movies. Maybe not even all of them. Just do the first 3 in release for 1 year, and then another year it'll be like a tradition, you know? We'll see if we make it that long. I like to think we can. I like to think that we can do it. I believe in us.
I believe I can fly.
I believe in a little thing called podcasting.
I believe in war and destruction and chaos.
Anywhoozits. Big dudes are taken out, little dudes are taken out. The Saints just wrecking shop. It's a good time. Then those flashbacks that I wasn't a huge fan of.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of them either. Not because I really do think that they needed to kind of set up the backstory because of the big reveal at the end.
They did. It becomes more prominent and he starts telling his story. What the Saints do now, their father did in
the 40s. No, it was
Was he in America?
Yeah, he was in America.
In the 40s and 50s when he was young, when he was their age, when he was young. Mm-hmm. And he had a Rocco or a Romeo who was the extra man who guided him to where the bad people were. Mm-hmm. And that person was named Louis. And that person came to be the old man that they talk about in this movie. Mm-hmm. And they don't even talk about... He doesn't become the antagonist until a good portion through the movie.
But the thing of it is, they refer to him on and off throughout the movie, but you don't really know, how big his part is until the very end.
When the movie introduces an antagonist, you stop that antagonist and introduce another one. I can't stand that at all. It is...
But the thing of it is, it's not really stopping, it's not introducing a new antagonist. The guy was referenced several times beforehand.
Right. But
as
far as the story goes, the whole time up until they finally got him,
mobsters.
Not the Russian mobsters, was the short fucker.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Whatever his name was.
Well, he was just a pawn, technically.
He was. After they killed him, that's when we got all these revelations about the other guy. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't even another maybe hour in until we actually met the old man.
But we don't realize who he is or the connection to the father until the very end. Which took a little too long.
Absolutely, I agree. That's why I said it on the previous one. In action movies, sometimes the plot takes a sideline and sometimes it has to.
I don't think it needed to for this one. I feel like it should have been revealed a little sooner so that we could build on that better.
Absolutely. I agree. It should have been paced out a little better. Mm-hmm. And they could have been a little bit more interesting.
There could have been more of a rivalry.
Right.
Instead of the father comes up to him and chills and talks to him peacefully. And I get that, because they were old friends. And then the old man reveals that basically he was just using the guy to get himself in with the mob deeper.
And when he pulls a double cross on Papa,
the father,
and has him sent to jail, serving 25 to life,
they basically just dump him.
Yeah, they had no use for him without the weapon. Moving to bring the Saints back and wipe out the family that was controlling everything and take everybody else out was his key to taking a little bit of the pie for himself. And motives, not clear. Actual method, not clear. Plan, not clear. None of it was very clear. However, the firefight at the end was pretty good.
That was cool.
And I'm going to be real honest with you. I was kind of ready for it to be over.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it took a little too long.
Yeah.
To be honest.
The introduction of another special agent from the FBI, Kunstler?
Oh, Kunstler. The obvious joke being cunt.
Because obvious cunt. And our already in charge special agent who was then discharged, Bloom, she just special agented circles around him. Because obviously, I wouldn't say his part was pointless because it was pretty fun to see a foil to these characters who are operating within the FBI and the law enforcement helping the Saints. Good to see a foil so that they are facing some pushback instead of just constantly being the guy on the inside getting them off the hook. Yeah.
Because not everyone's going to play with that or go along with it.
And that kind of wraps up the movie with police outside the shootout.
Mm-hmm. And the
Saints get arrested.
They drop their guns. They get arrested. Yeah. They go to prison.
And it looks like they're setting up a third one, but we haven't seen it.
It definitely 100% looks, because they're basically talking about breaking them back out of prison or getting them out of prison somehow.
It's been 11 years since then. I don't think it's going to happen.
The actors have probably outaged the roles.
Right.
More than likely.
It's been too long. There's a fan base for this movie, for sure. And I'm thinking they probably want a third one. If there was a third one, I would like to watch it.
Yeah, same.
But I don't think it's going to happen.
I'm okay with it. Being open-ended and just being as is.
Yeah.
But I'd like, if they decided to do it, I'd watch it.
However, I think the angle they would go for is not the brothers. I think that we would see new Saints in new cities because...
They keep mentioning that they need them in every major city.
Smecker ain't dead. Willem Dafoe pops up at the end telling Tony Stark he's got the Avengers Initiative, offering Agent Bloom a one-way ticket out of town to be hidden by the church, basically. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like they were going to go the route of having an entirely new cast of Saints in another city, and that would be the right way to go. However, what makes this movie work so much is not the Irish religious overtones. It's not the action. What makes this work is the chemistry between the two brothers.
The sibling rivalry and their comfortability with each other, and the fact that they play off each other so fucking well that it's just hard not to love those characters.
Absolutely. This movie could not have been done without such a tight set of actors working so well together.
Mm-hmm.
Previously, you gave the Boondock Saints a perfect score.
That's one of my top movies, though. So
now let's talk this one as not quite as a sequel, but as a movie. How did this one hold
on its own? On its own, I'd say 4, 3.5, 4 out of 5 Jack Snacks.
And as a sequel?
Around the same, about 3. No, I'd say 4. 4. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't measure up to the first one. Right. But it's still good.
The first one was such a scrappy movie, kind of an underground hit that, clawed its way up to notoriety in home release and in blockbuster rentals. The sequel kind of just plopped on top of that with more of it. On its own, honestly, I'd say maybe a 3. Mm-hmm. But I'd put it at a 4 next to the other one.
So about
maybe
a
3.9. I would say I would like the first one better. This is really good. Mm-hmm. It is technically better. It is flashier. It is better looking. It sounds better. But at its heart, in its core,
not the better movie.
Not the better movie, no. Kind of like how I feel about Infinity War and Endgame. Avengers Endgame, bigger, badder, louder, a lot more going on, more for the fans. Infinity War is a better movie. Hands down. Same with this. We see what happened with the characters. We see where they go. We see more of their misadventures. But I still think the one before it was a better movie.
I agree.
Anyway, we did this as a double feature, so I'm not sure when this one's exactly going up, but we're going to have something different for next week. So until next time, Jack, let's watch something.
Let's watch something.